What's going on, gamers? Apparently, it has gotten worse inside of Bethesda. Yeah, the lead writer for Skyrim, he leaves. We saw what happened with Starfield. It didn't turn out too well. Fallout 76 was always eh. It's just are not getting better. The remaster, obviously, of Elder Scrolls 4, which you can say they're like main people behind it, released buggy. It's not the Bethesda we knew anymore. Everything with Microsoft just tanks under. Bethesda seems like they're having development hell with Elder Scrolls 6. There was a post that I just read on Twitter that just has it not looking good. Here we have Bethesda's dead. My Dreamcast guy, Skyrim Reader leaks it all. Elder Scrolls 6 screwed, so it may not be peak like Skyrim, and that's kind of disappointing. So let's get into this. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Here we go.
Dreamcast guy here. Today we're talking about the death of Bethesda because there has been a crazy interview by one of the main people at Bethesda, the guy who actually wrote pretty much every fantastic Bethesda game. We're talking literally the writer of Skyrim, literally the guy who's basically behind the best jokes and coolest satire in Fallout, the writer of Elder Scrolls. He has come out after 23 years and left Bethesda and basically said the studio is just gone inside. Apparently, they planned on making the Elder Scrolls 6 11 years ago, and instead they decided to waste time with stuff like Fallout 76 and Starfield. And I want to talk about this interview because a lot of people are really picking it apart and seeing this as such a sign about how bleak this industry is. With these crazy dev times, at this point, most of the AAA studios are putting out like one game a year at this point. And even when they do, it's like, oh, sorry, your game didn't sell 50 million copies. Your studio's just dead. And it sounds like Bethesda has just gotten lazy, so up their own ass, and just in general, it seems like they've forgotten what makes Bethesda games Bethesda games. And
He's right, though, because when you think about Bethesda back then, they were epic. They were peak. They were like right up there with Meta, with Blizzard, Capcom, Nintendo. Like you would just say they were up there. When they released something, it was impactful. It lasted 10 years. You could play it a long time. Starfield is the fastest dying Bethesda game I've ever seen, and it was supposed to be ambitious. It's like you beat it, but you were done with it so fast. You would never do that with Oblivion, with Skyrim. You would play it so much. I don't get that same feeling with Starfield. We're going to see what happens when they try to fix it this year and launch the PS5 version along with the Switch 2 version, which we know is coming. But even then, when you think about Bethesda lately, I mean, they're just not the Bethesda we used to know. Why you think Pete Hines left? Now you got the lead writer who's been there forever leaving. This is bad. This is not good. That guy was a very important writer, and to lose him for Elder Scrolls 6, yeah. And then you wonder why it took so long for it to come out. Secretly, it's been in development hell, and Bethesda is just falling apart, and they're not being honest. Everything at Microsoft is, honestly.
and what's really weird, it's not even Xbox's fault for once. But let's talk.
Yeah.
I hope you're having a great day. And if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, this was an extremely long, in-depth interview by Kirk Kuhlmann, by Kirk Kuhlmann, over here on PC Gamer. And I want to go through it, and I want to go through a bunch of the reactions. The entire internet, even Reddit, has just been freaking out about it because it is wild. But this dude is literally the lore master for Elder Scrolls. If you've ever had crazy cool stuff where you love all the elf wars, if you thought all the cool stuff about how trolls work and stuff, this is literally the guy. Now, you cannot undermine this. I feel like sometimes whenever there's like a big leak or a talk like this, people go, oh, it's just whatever series. Elder Scrolls, I feel like one of the things that makes Elder Scrolls the most crazy to me, especially Skyrim, especially, God, Morrowind, I think these games are so culturally deep. There's so much different rival factions and cool world building, and you can literally pick up every single book on the shelf and read pages and pages of histories and battles and wars and stuff like that, right? This guy cares more about a video game universe than maybe any other writer on the planet. And so because of it, apparently he was told specifically by Todd Howard for over a decade, you are going to be the director of Elder Scrolls 6. And it turned out Todd just lied. So this is it. Elder Scrolls 6 was supposed to be their next game after Fallout 4. You know, I was thinking about this yesterday, actually. Fallout 4 came out, 16 years ago? No, why am I saying that? It came out in 2015, so that came out 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, he said, yeah, that's going to be our next big project. Todd Howard promised him lead design role of Elder Scrolls 6, only to find out 11 years later, they went with someone else.
Oof, that sucks. No wonder why that guy's angry, considering all the work he's done too. And this just shakes up everything to not be good. Yeah, I mean, what the hell is Todd Howard doing? And I don't know, it just makes me worry because this is a game that cannot fail. Bethesda failed with Starfield. Everybody knows that. And then, that Microsoft tried to make it an Xbox exclusive. That didn't end up turning out well at all for them. And Fallout 76 was never all that. I mean, it always felt mid compared to a mainstream game. Sure, they supported it a lot, but it kind of reminds me of the Elder Scrolls Online, which like they're not. It's not like the main games though. Not that they were bad games, but they weren't peak. It's like everything you see with Bethesda. Like it's like what the hell's going on? And now this is going on, and then he's leaving. It's like, oh man, this is not good.
So this confirms two things at once. It does confirm the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 is their next project for whatever size, shape, or that finally ends up becoming.
Maybe.
But to me, it is kind of just a signal about the fact that I do feel like as much as Todd Howard gets praised, at least in the past, it does feel like I do feel like he has sort of a pro-corporate vibe now, where he's not about creatives figuring stuff out. It is really just, we're going to go with the safest choice possible.
I agree with him. Todd Howard is not the same anymore either. Like there's something that's not there. Where it's like before, I think when you think about the synergy he had with everybody working together back then, he was great with that. But now something happened ever since he's got with Microsoft, and just in general, even probably a little bit before that, where it's not the same. I don't know. Like something definitely is off, and I'm definitely worried about Elder Scrolls 6. Definitely after seeing Starfield, and then seeing the DLC after that too being crap. It's like this isn't Bethesda I know.
The vibe at Bethesda was very different after Skyrim's success. Kuhlmann was co-lead on Skyrim. This is something I have heard a lot. I don't want to leak specific names, specific studios, but something I've heard from a bunch of studios is that if you have a game that is a mega breakout success, you become essentially a cog in the corporate machine. That's just the way it works. I've heard stuff where like a guy whose job it is to design combat makes a game, it sells crazy game busters, and then you spend the next 10 years of your life in like weird democratized meetings where you're trying to like vote on game mechanics for the next game. You're like, well, we made that game by having fun, by being passionate, by doing daring ideas. Why now is it like creation by committee? This sounds like what happened to Bethesda. And what's interesting is that this isn't just because of the Microsoft acquisition. A lot of us kind of blame Microsoft is real bad about buying stuff and just instantly running into the ground. I mean, even Call of Duty, look at that. Jesus Christ, the sales are down by 60% instantly, right? But it also goes down to the fact that I do think that in a lot of ways, whenever studios get acquired, the out-facing PR is already so positive. It's instantly like, well, now we can just focus on the games. We don't have to worry about all those sales numbers. But it almost seems like Bethesda has this weird obsession with like trying to make the most perfect games of all time, and they end up putting out nothing in the process. Of course, after Fallout 4, we didn't do Elder Scrolls 6. We made Fallout 76. And
why you did that, I have no idea.
Even then, we didn't make the Elder Scrolls 6. We made Starfield, which became this extremely long project compared to the other ones. Now, I've seen a lot of reactions specifically about that. I love Starfield. There's no way in hell I would have asked for it over the Elder Scrolls 6. What did Todd mean by this? Anyways, I'm very sad that Kuhlmann left. Sounds like he wasn't treated very well, which stings even more. Bethesda keeps digging their hole, unfortunately. Look, even the biggest Starfield fan on the planet, even the biggest person on the planet thinks, wow, Starfield's got such good shipbuilding. It's so zen. I have one friend in real life, shout out to him if he sees this video. He has played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of Starfield because he says it's so calming. He likes just flying around in a ship and like going against space pirates and stuff. But even then, I think he would even admit it's not a good Bethesda game. It doesn't have cool quests. It doesn't have cool, like, interesting, weird ideas or aliens and stuff. It's a boring, giant, empty sandbox. And they spent a decade purely on that big empty sandbox. The talk is they're trying to like rebuild Starfield and relaunch it like they did with Cyberpunk 2077, but I just don't think you can really go back to that well. Kuhlmann left.
Yeah, I mean, they may be able to make it more appealing, but even then, it's like the opportunity you had with Elder Scrolls 6 with that lead writer, yeah, it's permanently gone now. And I don't know. It's going to be tough. They're relying on the PlayStation, then they got to rely on the Switch too. Like that's what they're doing, but it's like you got to do things right the first way. But I mean, I still think it's going to be successful on those two platforms. But yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about Bethesda as well. This is something that's very real here. Here, this is not you know, grifting or anything on his page or anything. No, this is real stuff. Um, and it is disappointing seeing where Bethesda's at. And I'm worried about Fallout 5.
Left Bethesda in 2023 after over 20 years. He says the problems at Bethesda predate the Microsoft acquisition, and as the years went on, design leads, including Todd Howard's role, became less hands-on and became more bureaucratic. His vision of Elder Scrolls 6 was going to be like the Empire Strikes Back. The Elven supremacists were the bad guys, and it would ultimately come out on top, setting things up for the Elder Scrolls 7. Does not sound like the craziest thing ever. Look at this. This confirms that Elder Scrolls 6 was about the Thalmor winning, and Elder Scrolls 7 would have been about the game finishing the Thalmor story, the Second Great War. The Elder Scrolls as a franchise is so grossly mismanaged, and it's depressing to know that the Elder Scrolls 6 isn't even close to release. Maybe that's the craziest thing at all, right? This dude probably still did a ton of writing on Elder Scrolls 6, sort of setting up the world and the lore, being the lore master for decades and decades and decades. There's a good chance that when the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, it's still maybe 5 years away. This stuff just takes too long in the oven.
Yeah, I agree with him. That's the thing. It's like you can tell that they definitely were having development hell. You didn't even get Starfield going. That was development hell. Fallout 76 was development hell. Think about it. How long did it take for them to fix that game? And that launch broken. Everything with Bethesda lately has just been not good.
I almost feel like, look, you can say what you want about Skyrim. You could say that Skyrim has been re-released too many times. You could say Skyrim has been hyped too long. You could say that Skyrim's got a lot of quests that don't really need to be there, right? Mm-hmm. But undeniably, it is a big, complete world that they made on a very short deadline. Think about the fact that Bethesda, on just the Xbox 360, did Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, we had Elder Scrolls 4, and we had Skyrim. And all of them came out with DLC. All of them came out with complete features. All of them just came out back to back to back to back to back. And then once Skyrim came out, it almost felt like they just hit a wall. Like they just stopped making stuff for so dang long. I almost feel like that's part of the reason a lot of people really hate on Fallout 4. It's not that Fallout 4 is like the worst game ever or even necessarily a bad Fallout. But after the heights of Skyrim and all the promise and potential and growth between those titles, Fallout 4 kind of just seemed like a bit of a nothing game. And I feel
I like Fallout 4.
I almost think that in a lot of ways, I don't trust Bethesda to make a good Elder Scrolls 6 after how bad they bungled freaking Starfield. I mean, this is the Starfield studio, and they're still using the same engine. They still have a lot of the same team. What do you really expect? It's insane to think about the influence and hype of the Elder Scrolls games leading up to Skyrim, a game that has 25,000 active players daily, and Bethesda were like, let's not make another one of these for 14 years. I gotta admit that this interview to me feels very, very, very bleak, because I think it does signal that the problem inside of the game industry isn't just not enough budget. It's not enough timelines. It's not enough just raw potential. It's not enough hype. It's not enough work hours. It is just the fact that, honestly, this bureaucratic version of art, committee via creation, it's something that I feel like is killing some of the best ideas. I think that's part of the reason I'm so excited for Judas, the new project, obviously by the creator of BioShock, because he purposely took his favorite people that worked on the first 3 BioShock games, and he went and made a separate team, a tinier side studio, and Judas has taken a very, very long time to come out. Obviously, we still don't even have a release date, but I almost want to see what a creative person with a bunch of creative people locked in a room for 5 years, what they come up with more than the next big AAA crazy 400 giant empty skybox. I don't know. This has been some off-the-cuff thoughts. I'll be honest, I'm very sleep deprived. I was out till past 2 a.m. We ended up at a bar, and I think the bar was owned by like the Russian mob. And it's crazy. There were definitely a lot of Russian people there that looked kind of scary, and they kept giving us free drinks, so I just kept drinking. So I'm out of it. But hello, thank you for watching this video. If you could please.
Oh yeah, get well, man. I was drinking a little bit last night too, but yeah, there we have it. This is not good news, man. Microsoft, once again, their monopolies are just backfiring. Everything is just kind of tanking down. I don't know what else to say. Redfall was trash from Bethesda too. I mean, this is just not good. So you guys have to let me know what you think. Leave some comments down below. Later, y'all. Peace out. Good Lord, man.